For decades, Tom Selleck was the definition of strength, charisma, and old-school Hollywood masculinity. With his unmistakable mustache, deep voice, and commanding presence, he became one of the most recognizable television stars in America. Millions knew him as Thomas Magnum from Magnum P.I., while newer generations admired him as Frank Reagan on Blue Bloods. But now, at 81 years old, fans are beginning to notice something heartbreaking about the legendary actor, and many are struggling to accept it. Recent appearances of Tom Selleck have sparked emotional reactions across social media. Fans who once watched him sprint across Hawaiian beaches or command scenes with effortless confidence are now seeing a man visibly slowed down by age. Photos of the actor looking frail, walking carefully, and appearing exhausted have spread online, leaving longtime admirers deeply concerned. And perhaps the saddest part of all is this: Tom Selleck spent most of his life trying to avoid becoming another broken Hollywood story. Unlike many celebrities of his era, Selleck built his reputation on discipline, privacy, and stability. He avoided constant scandals. He stayed away from destructive tabloid behavior. While other stars chased fame non-stop, Tom preferred a quieter life, often retreating to his ranch away from Hollywood's chaos. To many fans, he represented the last true gentleman actor, a symbol of dignity in an industry that often destroys people. But aging is something no amount of discipline can stop. Behind the scenes, reports have circulated for years about the physical pain Selleck has endured while continuing to work. Sources close to productions claim the actor pushed himself through chronic back and joint problems during later seasons of Blue Bloods. Some insiders alleged he often struggled with mobility after long filming days, though he remained determined not to let the crew see him weak. That determination may have come at a cost. Fans started noticing subtle signs during interviews. The once energetic actor appeared slower when standing up. His movements became more cautious. Some viewers noticed stiffness in the way he walked. Others pointed out how exhausted he occasionally looked during promotional appearances. While none of this is shocking for a man in his 80s, seeing such a legendary figure physically decline has been deeply emotional for audiences who grew up watching him. What makes the situation even more painful is the contrast between then and now. In the 1980s, Tom Selleck was everywhere. He wasn't just a television actor. He was a cultural phenomenon. Women adored him. Men wanted to be him. Studios fought for his attention. At the peak of his fame, he reportedly turned down massive opportunities, including the role of Indiana Jones, because of scheduling conflicts with Magnum P.I. Imagine how different Hollywood history might have looked if he had accepted that role. Yet despite becoming one of television's highest-paid stars, Selleck never fully embraced celebrity culture. He often spoke about protecting his family from fame. In interviews, he admitted he worried success could destroy personal relationships. That fear shaped many of his decisions throughout life. Ironically, the very humility fans loved about him may also explain why his current struggles feel so personal to people. Tom Selleck never seemed untouchable. He felt real. And now, fans are confronting a difficult reality. Even the strongest icons eventually grow old. The emotional reaction online has been intense. Some fans say watching him age feels like watching an era disappear. Others describe him as the last connection to a different kind of Hollywood, one built on charm, patience, and authenticity rather than constant controversy and viral attention. One viral comment summed up the heartbreak perfectly. Tom Selleck getting old hurts because he reminded us of our dads, our grandfathers, and a time when things felt simpler. That comment resonated with thousands. There's also growing speculation surrounding the future of Blue Bloods. As the long-running series approaches its conclusion, many viewers fear Selleck's retirement may permanently remove him from the spotlight. For fans who spent decades seeing him on television screens every week, that possibility feels devastating. And while Tom himself has not publicly confirmed severe illness rumors circulating online, he has admitted in past interviews that years of performing physical scenes took a heavy toll on his body. Doing stunts, riding horses, filming action sequences, all of it added up over time. The human body keeps score. What audiences often forget is that actors from Selleck's generation worked under brutal schedules. Television production in the 1980s demanded exhausting hours. Stars frequently performed their own stunts, endured harsh filming conditions, and maintained relentless publicity obligations. Over decades, that lifestyle leaves scars few people ever see. Now those scars may finally be catching up to him. But perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of Tom Selleck's story is how quietly he seems to be facing this stage of life. There are no dramatic public meltdowns. No desperate attempts to stay young. No constant attention-seeking behavior. Instead, there is simply an aging man trying to maintain dignity while the world watches him change. And for millions of longtime fans, that reality is almost impossible to accept. Because for them, Tom Selleck was never supposed to grow old. As concern around Tom Selleck continues to grow, many fans have started revisiting old interviews and forgotten moments from his life, and what they're discovering now makes his current condition even more emotional. Because behind the fame, behind the legendary mustache and iconic roles, Tom Selleck spent much of his life quietly battling pressure, loneliness, and sacrifice. 4 years, audiences assumed he had the perfect Hollywood life. Successful career, loving family, financial security, respect from millions. But according to people who worked closely with him over the decades, Selleck often carried enormous emotional weight behind the scenes. One of the biggest struggles came from fame itself. At the height of Magnum P.I, Tom Selleck became one of the most recognizable men on the planet almost overnight. Everywhere he went, people stared. Reporters followed him constantly. Studios demanded endless appearances and interviews. The fame became so overwhelming that he later admitted he began feeling trapped by it. In rare interviews, Selleck confessed that sudden superstardom deeply affected his mental well-being. He described feeling emotionally exhausted from constantly living under public attention. While fans saw confidence and charm on screen, off-camera he often craved isolation and normalcy. That's partly why he made one of the most shocking decisions of his career. Instead of fully embracing Hollywood power circles, Tom chose distance. At a time when most actors desperately chased bigger mansions, non-stop publicity, and blockbuster fame, Selleck bought a ranch and spent much of his free time away from Los Angeles. He reportedly preferred repairing fences, working outdoors, and living quietly over attending celebrity parties. Many people didn't understand that choice back then. Today, fans see it differently. Looking back, some believe Tom Selleck was trying to protect himself from the same industry machine that destroyed so many stars of his generation. He watched careers collapse under addiction, scandals, and burnout. He saw how fame could consume identities. And he wanted no part of it. But isolation can come with its own emotional cost. Over the years, rumors repeatedly surfaced suggesting Selleck struggled privately with the pressure of balancing career and family life. Long filming schedules reportedly kept him away from loved ones for extended periods. Even though he fiercely protected his personal life, those close to him hinted that maintaining stability in Hollywood was never easy. What makes this especially heartbreaking now is that fans are seeing an older man who sacrificed so much simply to preserve peace. And despite all those sacrifices, time still came for him. Recent photos of Selleck appearing heavier, slower, and visibly fatigued have triggered a wave of emotional reactions online. Some fans admitted they barely recognized him at first glance. Others defended him passionately, reminding people that aging is natural and unavoidable. Still, the emotional shock remains powerful. Hollywood conditioned audiences to remember Tom Selleck as permanently strong, permanently handsome, permanently in control. But reality eventually changes every icon. There's also another painful layer to this story that many younger viewers may not fully understand. Tom Selleck represents a disappearing kind of celebrity. He came from an era before social media obsession, before influencers, before stars documented every second of their lives online. Mystery still existed back then. Actors felt larger than life because audiences only saw fragments of them. That era is fading fast. And as legendary figures like Selleck grow older, fans are realizing they are not only losing celebrities, they are losing pieces of their own past. For many Americans, seeing Tom Selleck age is strangely personal. People remember watching him with parents who are no longer alive. They remember childhood evenings spent around the television. They remember a version of America that now feels distant. That nostalgia is part of why recent images of the actor hit so hard emotionally. It's not just about Tom. It's about time itself. Adding even more sadness are ongoing rumors surrounding his physical health. While many online claims remain exaggerated or unverified, observers continue speculating about chronic pain and mobility issues. Some entertainment insiders believe years of stunt work and physically demanding filming accelerated wear on his body. And if true, that would explain a lot. During the peak of his career, Selleck became known for performing physically intense scenes with remarkable toughness. Horse riding, action sequences, long production days, he handled it all while maintaining a grueling television schedule few modern actors would accept today. The human body can only absorb so much punishment before it begins pushing back. Yet even as age visibly affects him, many colleagues still describe Tom Selleck as remarkably professional and deeply respected on set. Crew members from Blue Bloods often praised his kindness, discipline, and leadership. Unlike many stars, he reportedly treated staff members with dignity regardless of status. That reputation matters. Especially now. Because in an industry filled with scandals and ego-driven collapses, Tom Selleck managed to preserve something rare: respect. And perhaps that is why fans are finding his aging process so difficult to witness. Not because he failed, but because someone so admired, so grounded, and so seemingly strong is finally showing the vulnerability every human being eventually faces. At 81 years old, Tom Selleck is no longer the unstoppable television icon running through Hawaii with effortless energy. He is an aging man carrying decades of memories, physical scars, sacrifices, and emotional weight. And for millions watching around the world, that realization is absolutely heartbreaking. What many fans don't realize about Tom Selleck is that his rise to fame almost never happened at all. Before becoming one of the biggest television stars in the world, Selleck spent years drowning in rejection. Long before Magnum P.I. turned him into an icon, he was just another struggling actor in Hollywood, auditioning endlessly, hearing "no" over and over again, and wondering if his dream would ever become reality. While audiences eventually saw effortless confidence on screen, the truth is that Tom Selleck fought through years of insecurity and uncertainty behind closed doors. And perhaps that's why his story hits differently today. Because unlike many celebrities who exploded into fame overnight, Selleck earned everything the hard way. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, he appeared in small commercials, tiny television parts, and forgettable guest roles. Casting directors often believed he was too tall, too mature, or simply didn't fit the trendy Hollywood image of that era. At one point, the rejection reportedly became so discouraging that Selleck seriously questioned whether acting was even meant for him. Imagine that for a moment. One of the most recognizable faces in television history nearly walked away before the world ever knew his name. That struggle shaped him permanently. Friends and colleagues later described Selleck as someone who never forgot how fragile success truly is. Even after becoming wealthy and famous, he reportedly carried himself with caution, almost as if he feared everything could disappear overnight. And in Hollywood, that fear isn't irrational. The entertainment industry is filled with forgotten stars, people once adored by millions who eventually vanished without warning. Tom Selleck witnessed countless careers collapse around him over the decades. Some stars lost relevance. Others lost themselves entirely. Maybe that's why he remained so grounded for so long. But now, at 81, something heartbreaking is happening. Fans are beginning to realize that even though Tom Selleck escaped many of Hollywood's traditional tragedies, he could never escape time. The internet has become flooded with emotional tribute videos, nostalgic clips, and fan compilations showing the actor during his prime years. Younger audiences discovering him for the first time are stunned by how charismatic he once was. Older fans, meanwhile, are struggling emotionally as they compare those images to recent appearances. The contrast is painful. In old footage, Selleck radiates energy. His smile is sharp. His posture is commanding. He moves with the confidence of someone completely in control of the world around him. Today, however, fans see a very different reality. A slower walk. A more tired expression. An older man whose body no longer obeys him the way it once did. And for many people, watching that transformation unfold feels almost unbearable. Some entertainment analysts believe part of the emotional impact comes from the symbolic role Selleck played in American culture. He represented reliability, stability, calm masculinity. In uncertain times, audiences trusted him instinctively. That kind of screen presence is incredibly rare. Unlike modern celebrity culture, which often thrives on controversy and chaos, Tom Selleck built his legacy through consistency. He wasn't constantly reinventing himself for attention. He didn't rely on public breakdowns or scandal-driven headlines to stay relevant. People simply liked him. And that authenticity created a bond with audiences that lasted generations. But perhaps one of the saddest details emerging now is how physically demanding his later career became. Reports from television insiders suggest that filming Blue Bloods grew increasingly difficult for the aging actor in recent years. Long shooting schedules reportedly became exhausting, especially as physical pain intensified. Yet despite that pain, Selleck kept working. Why? Some believe it was loyalty to the cast and crew. Others think he simply wasn't ready to let go of acting, the career he fought so hard to achieve after years of rejection. There's something deeply human about that. Because when a person spends their entire life building an identity around purpose and work, stepping away can feel terrifying. Retirement doesn't just mean stopping a job. Sometimes it feels like losing part of yourself. That may explain why fans sense sadness beneath Selleck's recent appearances. Not dramatic sadness. Quiet sadness. The kind that comes when someone realizes an important chapter of life is ending. And unfortunately, the public often makes that process even harder for aging stars. Social media users cruelly compare old and new photos, mocking celebrities for no longer looking young. The same audiences who once celebrated them now sometimes react with shock when age inevitably changes them. Tom Selleck has not been immune to that treatment. But many fans fiercely defend him. Across online forums, thousands have praised the actor not for staying young, but for aging naturally with dignity. Unlike countless celebrities chasing cosmetic perfection, Selleck appears to have accepted the reality of growing older, even if the process is painful. That honesty may be exactly why people are reacting so emotionally now. Because when fans look at Tom Selleck today, they are not just seeing an actor getting old. They are seeing mortality. They are seeing the passage of time. They are seeing pieces of their own lives disappearing alongside him. And perhaps that's why so many people say the situation is heartbreaking. Not because Tom Selleck failed, but because no matter how beloved, respected, or strong someone becomes, nobody can outrun time forever. There's one detail about Tom Selleck that makes his current situation even more emotional for longtime fans. He spent most of his career trying to avoid exactly this kind of public heartbreak. Unlike many Hollywood stars, Selleck never wanted audiences feeling sorry for him. He rarely complained publicly, rarely exposed private struggles, rarely chased sympathy. In fact, throughout his career, he built an image around quiet resilience. Even when facing pressure, exhaustion, or personal sacrifice, he usually handled it away from cameras. That's why recent conversations surrounding him feel so different. For the first time, fans are not looking at Tom Selleck as the invincible television hero. They are looking at him as a vulnerable elderly man. And emotionally, many people are simply not prepared for that shift. One reason the reaction has become so intense is because Selleck's image remained remarkably stable for decades. While other celebrities radically changed their appearance or public identity, Tom seemed almost frozen in time. The mustache, 더 보이스, the calm confidence. It all felt permanent. Then suddenly, age caught up all at once. Fans who hadn't seen recent photos were stunned. Some described feeling genuinely emotional after watching newer interviews. Others admitted it felt like watching a parent grow old overnight. That reaction says something profound about the connection audiences formed with him. Because Tom Selleck wasn't just famous. He became comforting. For decades, his presence represented familiarity and safety. Whether in Magnum, P.I., Friends, or Blue Bloods, viewers knew what they were getting with him: steadiness, warmth, authority, and dignity. In a rapidly changing entertainment industry, he remained one of the few constants. Now that constant is fading, and fans are struggling to cope with it emotionally. What's especially heartbreaking is that Selleck reportedly worked much longer than many expected, partly because he valued responsibility so deeply. Former colleagues often described him as fiercely loyal, someone who hated letting people down. That loyalty may explain why he continued filming demanding television schedules even as physical pain reportedly increased with age. Several insiders over the years suggested that long hours on set became increasingly difficult for him physically. Standing for extended scenes, repeating takes, wearing heavy wardrobe pieces, memorizing scripts under exhaustion. Tasks younger actors barely think about can become brutally draining in your 80s. Yet Selleck kept showing up. Not because he needed fame, not because he desperately wanted attention, but possibly because work gave structure and meaning to his life. That idea resonates deeply with older audiences. Many people understand the fear of becoming irrelevant after decades of purpose-driven living. Retirement can feel less like freedom and more like disappearance. And perhaps that's part of what fans are sensing now when they look at Tom Selleck. Not just physical aging, but emotional transition. The ending of a life chapter. There's also growing sadness surrounding the realization that Hollywood itself has changed dramatically since Selleck's golden years. The type of star he represented barely exists anymore. Modern celebrity culture rewards controversy, constant visibility, and internet virality. Quiet professionalism no longer dominates headlines the way it once did. Tom Selleck came from a different world. A slower world. A more restrained world. And as actors from that generation continue aging or passing away, audiences increasingly feel like an entire cultural era is disappearing with them. That nostalgia has intensified discussions around Selleck's legacy online. Fans frequently post old clips from the 1980s showing his charisma at its peak. Younger viewers are often shocked by how magnetic he was on screen. Comments repeatedly describe him as effortlessly cool, something many believe modern Hollywood struggles to produce authentically. But alongside admiration comes grief. Because every nostalgic clip reminds audiences that those years are gone forever. Some fans have even admitted they avoided watching recent appearances because they didn't want their memories changed. They preferred remembering the younger Tom Selleck, powerful, energetic, smiling confidently into the camera. That emotional response may sound extreme, but psychologically it makes sense. Celebrities often become emotional landmarks in people's lives. Fans connect them to childhood memories, relationships, family members, or simpler periods of life. Watching those figures visibly age forces people to confront their own aging too. That's why the internet reaction to Tom Selleck feels so personal. He reminds people of time passing. And time passing can hurt. Ironically, despite all the sadness surrounding his current image, Selleck may have achieved something very few stars ever do: lasting respect. Even now, when audiences discuss him, the overwhelming tone is admiration rather than scandal. There are no major public meltdowns defining his legacy. No catastrophic proprietaschen Kollaps. No endless tabloid humiliation. Instead, there is simply sadness that someone so admired has reached the difficult realities of old age. And perhaps there's something strangely beautiful about that too. Because after decades in one of the harshest industries in the world, Tom Selleck managed to keep something many celebrities lose long before retirement: his dignity. At 81 years old, his body may be slowing down. His appearances may shock fans who remember his younger years. The energy that once made him unstoppable may now be fading. But the respect people feel for him remains incredibly strong. And maybe that's why this story feels less like gossip and more like watching the final chapter of a beloved American icon. As the world watches Tom Selleck grow older, many fans have started asking a painful question. Was he secretly carrying more emotional pain than anyone realized? For decades, Tom Selleck mastered the art of appearing calm and composed in public. Interviews were controlled. Personal details were limited. He rarely exposed vulnerability openly. Unlike many celebrities who constantly shared their struggles with the media, Selleck kept most of his inner life hidden. But now, looking back, some fans believe there were signs all along. Signs of exhaustion. Signs of loneliness. Signs of a man quietly trying to hold everything together. One of the most revealing aspects of Selleck's life was his complicated relationship with fame. While millions envied his success, Tom himself often spoke about the emotional pressure celebrity created. In several interviews throughout the years, he hinted that massive fame did not necessarily bring happiness. In fact, it often brought isolation. That may surprise younger viewers who only know him as a beloved television legend. But the reality is that extreme fame can slowly disconnect people from ordinary life. Trust becomes difficult. Privacy disappears. Relationships become harder to protect. Every mistake risks becoming public entertainment. Selleck seemed deeply aware of that danger. That awareness likely explains why he guarded his family life so fiercely. He reportedly turned down opportunities that would have made him even bigger internationally because he feared losing balance completely. In Hollywood, such decisions are almost unheard of. Most stars chase more. Tom Selleck often stepped back instead. And perhaps that's what makes his story feel tragic in a different way. He did many things right. He avoided scandals. He protected his reputation. He stayed grounded. He prioritized stability over ego. Yet despite all of that, aging still arrived with brutal honesty. There's something emotionally devastating about realizing that wisdom and discipline cannot stop time. Fans watching Tom Selleck today are confronting that reality in real time. No matter how strong, admired, or respected someone becomes, the human body eventually changes. And for a man whose image once symbolized strength itself, that transformation feels especially painful. Recent fan discussions online have become increasingly emotional. Many longtime viewers admit they become uncomfortable seeing new photos because they remember him so differently. Some describe feeling shocked by how much older he suddenly appears. Others say the sadness comes from what Tom Selleck represented emotionally. To millions of people, he wasn't just a celebrity crush or television actor. He represented reliability. Dependability. A type of masculinity that felt protective rather than chaotic. That image became deeply comforting to audiences over decades. Especially during uncertain times, watching Tom Selleck on screen felt reassuring. Whether solving crimes, leading a family, or playing the calm voice in a tense situation, he projected stability naturally. Modern entertainment rarely produces figures like that anymore. Which is why his aging process feels almost symbolic. Fans are not only watching Tom Selleck slow down. They are watching an entire generation fade. That emotional weight became even heavier after discussions intensified around the future of Blue Bloods. The series represented one of the final major television anchors connecting older and younger generations of viewers. Seeing Selleck at the center of that show gave fans comfort, almost proof that some things never changed. Now that illusion is disappearing. And many people are struggling emotionally because of it. There's also increasing concern among fans about how retirement could affect him psychologically. Actors who spend decades in front of cameras often experience profound emotional difficulty after stepping away from public life. The routine disappears. The attention fades. The sense of identity can weaken. For someone like Selleck, whose entire adult life revolved around performance and responsibility, that transition may be deeply complicated. Some retired actors adapt peacefully. Others quietly battle sadness behind closed doors. That uncertainty adds another layer of heartbreak to Tom Selleck's story. Fans desperately want to believe he's happy, peaceful, and enjoying life privately. But seeing the physical signs of aging has made many people wonder what emotional struggles might also exist beneath the surface. Especially because Selleck always hid pain so well. And perhaps that is the cruel irony of his story. The man who spent decades protecting his privacy is now facing public scrutiny during one of the most vulnerable periods of human life. Old age. Every wrinkle becomes a headline. Every slow step becomes internet discussion. Every tired expression becomes speculation. That kind of attention would be difficult for anyone. Yet despite everything, Tom Selleck still carries himself with noticeable dignity. Even in recent appearances, fans often point out the same quiet calmness that defined him decades ago. The energy may be different now. The body may be older. But traces of the man audiences admired still remain unmistakably visible. And maybe that's why this story affects people so deeply. Because beneath the sadness, fans still see glimpses of the icon who shaped generations. The actor who made millions smile. The man who survived Hollywood without completely losing himself. At 81 years old, Tom Selleck may no longer look like the unstoppable star audiences remember from the 1980s. But to many people, he still represents something rare in modern celebrity culture. Grace, loyalty, and quiet strength in the face of time itself. For many fans, the most heartbreaking thing about Tom Selleck isn't simply that he looks older now. It's the realization that one of Hollywood's strongest and most dependable figures may have spent much of his life quietly carrying burdens nobody truly understood. The public saw confidence. But confidence and peace are not always the same thing. Throughout his decades in entertainment, Selleck developed a reputation as one of the few stars who stayed relatively untouched by the chaos of celebrity culture. While other actors battled public scandals, addiction issues, career meltdowns, or explosive divorces, Tom Selleck seemed almost immune to destruction. But sometimes survival comes with hidden costs. Several people who worked around him over the years described him as intensely private, almost guarded emotionally. He often kept conversations focused on work rather than personal struggles. Even during interviews, he carefully controlled what parts of himself the public could see. At first, fans interpreted that as confidence and professionalism. Now some wonder if it was also self-protection. Because Hollywood can be brutal to vulnerable people. The industry rewards image, not weakness. Aging actors especially face enormous pressure as opportunities shrink and audiences evolve. For someone who spent decades being celebrated for strength and charisma, confronting physical decline in public can become emotionally devastating. And yet Tom Selleck never publicly lashed out at audiences. He never spiraled publicly. He never tried desperately reinventing himself to appear younger. Instead, he seemed to accept aging with reluctant dignity, even while the internet reacted emotionally to every visible change. That restraint may be one of the reasons fans admire him even more today. But it also makes the sadness surrounding him harder to ignore. In many ways, Tom Selleck represents a disappearing generation of performers who believed suffering should remain private. Today's culture encourages celebrities to publicly share every emotional struggle online. Selleck came from a completely different era. An era where men were often taught to endure silently, to keep working, to keep smiling, to never complain. And perhaps that explains why fans sense unspoken sadness when they look at him now. Not because he says anything dramatic, but because aging itself says enough. There's also another emotional layer making this story resonate so strongly with audiences. Tom Selleck's screen characters often reflected the exact qualities people hoped existed in real life. Integrity, loyalty, responsibility, calm leadership. For decades, viewers projected those ideals onto him naturally. He became more than an actor, he became symbolic. Especially for older audiences, he represented a version of masculinity that felt stable and trustworthy during rapidly changing times. That image became deeply personal for many families. Parents watched him with their children. Grandparents admired him. Couples grew old together watching his shows year after year. Now, seeing him physically decline feels almost like losing a family member people never actually met. That emotional attachment explains why even simple recent photos of Selleck can trigger massive reactions online. A single image of him appearing tired or moving carefully spreads rapidly because audiences are emotionally invested in his well-being. And unfortunately, aging in public is unforgiving. Every wrinkle becomes analyzed. Every slower movement becomes a headline. Every health rumor spreads instantly. That level of scrutiny would be exhausting for anyone, especially someone who spent most of his life avoiding unnecessary attention. Some fans believe the emotional toll of public observation may actually be harder than the physical aging itself. Imagine spending decades being remembered as powerful and youthful, only to have millions of strangers react with shock the moment age becomes visible. That experience could break many people psychologically. Yet remarkably, Tom Selleck still appears composed. And perhaps that quiet composure is exactly what makes this entire situation feel so heartbreaking. Because fans can sense the effort behind it. The effort to remain dignified. The effort to remain strong. The effort to keep moving forward while the world watches time slowly change everything. There's also increasing sadness surrounding the realization that Hollywood rarely celebrates aging legends properly anymore. New trends dominate attention constantly. Viral fame replaces long-term respect. Icons who once defined entire generations gradually disappear from mainstream conversation. But fans refuse to let that happen to Tom Selleck. Online communities continue posting tributes, favorite scenes, emotional montages, and memories connected to his career. Many viewers openly admit they took his presence for granted during his peak years. Only now, watching him grow older, do they fully realize how much comfort he brought into their lives. That delayed appreciation carries enormous emotional weight. Because people often fail to recognize cultural icons fully until time begins taking them away. And perhaps that is the true tragedy surrounding Tom Selleck today. Not scandal. Not controversy. Not failure. But the painful realization that even the people who once seemed eternal eventually become fragile. At 81 years old, Tom Selleck remains respected, admired, and beloved by millions around the world. His legacy is secure. His impact on television history is undeniable. But fans are now witnessing something far more human than celebrity. They are witnessing a man entering the final stage of life with quiet grace while the world struggles emotionally to let him go. And for many long-time admirers, that reality is almost impossible not to cry about. As tributes continue pouring in for Tom Selleck, one painful truth keeps surfacing again and again. People are not emotionally prepared for a world without him. That may sound dramatic, but for millions of fans, Tom Selleck has been part of life for over 4 decades. Entire generations grew up with his voice in their living rooms, his face on television screens, and his characters representing a kind of calm strength that now feels increasingly rare. And perhaps that's why recent conversations surrounding him feel so heavy emotionally. Because deep down, audiences understand something they don't want to say out loud. Time is running out. At 81 years old, Selleck has reached an age where every public appearance becomes emotionally charged. Fans analyze how he walks, how he sounds, whether he appears tired. Every detail becomes symbolic because people know they are witnessing the later chapter of an extraordinary life. And unlike many modern celebrities whose fame feels temporary, Tom Selleck became woven into cultural memory itself. That kind of legacy creates powerful emotional attachment. For older fans, he represents youth now gone forever. Watching him age reminds them of their own aging, their own lost years, their own changing bodies. Some viewers openly admit that seeing recent photos of Selleck forced them to confront realities they had emotionally avoided for years. Mortality, aging, the passing of generations. It's remarkable when you think about it. One actor can unintentionally become a mirror reflecting millions of people's fears about time. And that's exactly what is happening now. What makes the situation even more emotional is that Selleck never behaved like a celebrity desperate for worship. In fact, many believe his humility strengthened the bond audiences felt with him. He appeared approachable, grounded, human. Fans sensed authenticity from him even when playing larger-than-life characters. That authenticity is disappearing from Hollywood. Today's entertainment culture moves quickly. Viral fame rises and collapses overnight. Scandal often generates more attention than integrity. But Tom Selleck belonged to an older tradition, one where careers were built slowly through consistency, professionalism, and audience trust. That trust lasted decades. Very few stars achieve that. And now fans are terrified of losing one of the final symbols of that era. The emotional reaction became especially visible after online clips resurfaced comparing young Tom Selleck to recent appearances. Millions watched those compilations. The comment section quickly filled with heartbreak. "This hurts more than I expected. He was my dad's favorite actor. I feel like my childhood is disappearing. He still seems like such a good man." Those comments reveal something deeper than celebrity admiration. They reveal grief connected to memory itself. Because when people mourn aging icons, they are often mourning parts of their own lives too. Some entertainment historians believe Tom Selleck's enduring popularity comes from the emotional stability he projected. During decades when public trust in celebrities constantly collapsed, Selleck rarely betrayed audience expectations. He remained respectful, composed, and relatively scandal-free in an industry notorious for destruction. That consistency made him feel dependable, safe. And in uncertain times, audiences cling tightly to figures who provide emotional familiarity. Now, however, fans are facing the painful realization that even the most dependable figures eventually fade physically. There is also growing recognition that Selleck sacrificed more for his career than many realized. Endless filming schedules, physical demands, public pressure. Years away from normal privacy. Even if he avoided major scandals, surviving Hollywood for this long likely required enormous emotional endurance. And perhaps audiences underestimated that cost for years. Because Tom Selleck made it look easy. But aging has a way of revealing hidden wear and tear. The face changes. The posture shifts. The body slows down. And suddenly the world realizes the icon was human all along. Still, despite all the sadness surrounding recent discussions, there is also something undeniably inspiring about the way Tom Selleck has carried himself through old age. He has not publicly begged for sympathy. He has not turned himself into a spectacle. He continues appearing with quiet dignity, even while the internet reacts emotionally to every visible sign of aging. That restraint may ultimately define his legacy more than any role he ever played. Because true grace is rare. Especially in Hollywood. And perhaps that is the final reason this story resonates so deeply with people around the world. Tom Selleck reminds audiences of a disappearing kind of strength, not loud strength, not arrogant strength, but calm endurance. The kind built through discipline, loyalty, humility, and persistence over decades. At 81 years old, he may walk slower now. His face may carry the marks of time. The unstoppable energy fans remember from the 1980s may have faded. But something important still remains untouched. The respect people feel when they see him. And in the end, maybe that matters more than youth ever could.